Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Thursday everybody. First up, we move through several important economic updates. Yesterday, Wednesday, China's ministry unveiled a package of tax relief measures intended to help small businesses and bolster confidence in the private sector. The most consequential of these measures was the extension of the tax relief program, which was first supposed to expire at the end of 2022, but was extended to the end of this year. Now, the program will run for 4 more years to end in 2027. Small businesses were especially savage during the zero-COVID years. It is hoped that this extension will help keep many in operation. However, analysts say that the issue isn't tax, the issue is low consumption. What's the point in removing tax on profits when you have no profits to be taxed in the first place? We remember that the State Council met on Monday. At the meeting, it expressed that the 4-year extension of the tax relief measures, quote, is of great significance for businesses to stabilize their expectations, boost confidence, and make investment and operational plans, end quote. It is hoped that this will indeed be the effect of the new measures. According to Chinese financial media outlet Yicai, for small and micro businesses, the corporate income tax rate for annual taxable income of less than 1 million yuan, about $140,000, is reduced from 25% to 20%. Small-scale businesses with less than 100,000 yuan in monthly sales are exempt from paying value-added taxes, while those normally eligible for a 3% value-added tax, or VAT, rate will now be required to pay just 1%. Next up, yesterday we examined how, according to both official and unofficial data, China's manufacturing activity, which represents approximately 28% of GDP, contracted in the month of July. This is bad news, but in a piece of more optimistic news, China's services sector, which includes retail and travel as well as other areas, increased at a faster pace in July month-on-month. According to the Caixin China General Services Business Activity Index, which was published yesterday, services rose to 54.1 from 53.9 in June, when it fell to a 5-month low. A reading above 50 indicates an expansion in activity. The National Bureau of Statistics published China's official services PMI this week too, which saw a dip to 51.5 from 52.8 the previous month. Wang Zhe, the senior economist at Caixin Inside Group, which puts the survey together, expressed that despite the promising recovery in the services activity, the July PMI reading was lower than the 55.5 average of the previous 6 months. Adding, quote, the uneven recovery of the services and manufacturing industries has been a prominent issue. Although the manufacturing sector was a drag, the steady expansion of the services industry still helped overall output, demand, and employment remain in positive territory. End quote. While we are on services, next up, let's look at tourism. According to a new report published this week by the China Tourism Academy, China's domestic tourism market is expected to rebound to 90% of pre-pandemic levels this year. Revenue generated by the domestic tourism market is also projected to rebound somewhat, but only to about 80% of pre-COVID levels, reaching 5 trillion yuan, $700 billion. This is mixed news. While rebound in this spending is good, the fact that it is still behind, and in the case of revenue, far behind pre-pandemic levels, especially considering many had hoped for a big jump after the end of zero-COVID, is disappointing. Zhang Yang, a researcher with the China Tourism Academy, expressed that most of this activity is from domestic tourists, adding that the, quote, traditional sources for tourists, such as Europe, the US, Japan, and South Korea, remain sluggish because of political tensions and differences in the timing of border reopenings after COVID. Some unique features of living in China, such as the widespread use of digital payments, also make it hard for foreign tourists. End quote. And last up for the economy, China's answer to Starbucks, Luckin Coffee Inc.'s revenue in the second quarter of this year surpassed Starbucks' sales in China for the first time ever. On Tuesday, the fast coffee chain reported revenue of 6.2 billion yuan, approximately $862 million for the second quarter of this year, an increase of 88% from the same period a year ago. The American coffee giant Starbucks, which has seen great success in the mainland market, saw $822 million revenue in China in the second quarter. We note that Luckin has many more stores in the mainland at 10,836 than its American competitor, which sits at 6,480. Of course, Luckin Coffee gained infamy back in 2020 when it was embroiled in an accounting scandal and kicked off the Nasdaq. In April of that year, it was discovered that Luckin had fabricated nearly half of its 2019 sales. Most of the company's senior leadership were removed, and in April 2022, it emerged once again from bankruptcy with new private equity investors. Starbucks is still going strong in China too, however, announcing last September that it will open 3,000 stores in China over the next 3 years and expects China to pass the US as its biggest market by 2025. Next up, counter-espionage. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit the like button. It is just me making these episodes every day, but your support is a massive source of inspiration. Liking, sharing, and subscribing is a massive source of support. And for anyone who wants to go the extra mile and help keep the channel financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. As always, thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Finally, for today's episode, the Ministry of State Security, China's principal civilian intelligence, security and secret police agency, has opened a WeChat account for the first time. This is an unusual move for the traditionally very secretive state organ, but its first post on the account is very telling. The post is called "Counter-Espionage Requires the Mobilization of the Entire Society." It is worth quoting some of the article at length. Quote, "It is an institutional innovation to deeply practice Xi Jinping thought on the rule of law and the overall national security concept, and it is of great significance to deepen the counter-espionage struggle in the new era and journey and to solidify the national security barrier. It provides important guarantees for accelerating the construction of a new pattern of work for national security agencies on the track of rule of law." End quote. And quote, "The national security organs are the main body responsible for counter-espionage work. At present, the situation of counter-espionage struggle is severe and complex. The national security agencies must earnestly implement the counter-espionage law and effectively fulfill the sacred mission entrusted by the party and the people." End quote. And concluding, quote, "We must creatively carry out various forms of national security, enemy situation education, and rule of law propaganda, strengthen case law interpretation, educate the masses through typical cases, enhance the awareness of counter-espionage and of the whole society, and form a strong joint force to maintain national security." End quote. State-run Global Times, in its own commentary on this development, wrote the same day, quote, "China is now facing a severe and complex situation in preventing espionage activities, as many countries use both traditional and non-traditional means in some emerging areas such as science and technology, the environment and biology, as the fields involving state secrets become broader. The Ministry of State Security's WeChat account effectively provides a great channel for the public to maintain an understanding of the national security landscape and engage in counter-espionage work, including reporting any suspicious activities. Sometimes we may notice some suspicious activities around us, but we don't know how to report it or how to report to professional agencies. Now we do." End quote. We note that the online channel for reporting the so-called suspicious activities is both in Chinese and in English. Let's end with this observation. Quote, "It is unclear if said typical cases will be of either PRC or foreign citizens previously arrested, or if the authorities will detain a new batch of people as examples of counter-espionage law violations. But either way, this may be a bit chilling." End quote. For many foreigners still living in China, it is more than a bit chilling. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Thursday. and I will see you all tomorrow.